Many thanks to our friends on the 5. Welcome to Hannity. This is a Fox News alert. The Destroy Trump media, they are continuing their meltdown over President Trump, and they're now pushing a new conspiracy theory about our commander-in-chief. They want you to think he's crazy. Let's see. Media, pot, kettle? Now, since the biased press wants to pretend to be psychology experts, well, we're going to beat them at their own game. We will diagnose all of these overpaid, out-of-touch, lazy, leftist ideologues that are suffering from Trump derangement syndrome. Plus, we'll continue to do the job the media should be doing, and that's telling you the truth about the Trump presidency. You will get this nowhere else on cable. Tonight's opening monologue. All right, so the conspiracy theorists over at CNN, MSNBC, mainstream media, they're at it again. Now, after failed attempts to smear President Trump with cries of Russia, 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 after claiming the president is about to start a nuclear war with North Korea, and after falsely painting the president, conservatives, Republicans as racist bigots, well, now the leftist hacks have created a fake news new talking point that they want to spread around in their new echo chamber. Now, members of the media elite, they know it all. And media are now pretending to be experts in psychiatry and psychology. And they have found a brand new way to try and delegitimize and destroy President Donald Trump. They are now claiming he is unhinged. He's unfit to serve. Now, here's the counsel to the president, Kellyanne Conway, firing back against this media bias earlier today on Fox and Friends.
It's such an absurd analysis, playing armchair psychiatrist, and it's not just him, it's a lot of people on TV. I remember, I'm old enough to remember when news stations reported the news.
Now, Kellyanne is spot on, and now to highlight this out-of-control bias by the leftist press, well, we're going to use this sound we used last night again tonight. Remember this? You'll hear it. Okay, so you, the American people, you can see for yourselves just how rampant this leftist Trump-hating ideology is in the leftist media. Let's just take a look at the press claiming that the president is unfit to serve. They all echo each other. Take a look.
Your behavior is causing great concern among the majority of the American people.
Is he suffering from some kind of illness? Is he fit for office?
The only possible, and this is on Twitter, the only possible defensible explanation for Trump's disgusting, unpresidential, narcissistic behavior would be early onset dementia. Maybe. She's not the only one who's been saying. Some people have been saying that for months. Has he shown that he's fit for office?
No.
Especially in this moment?
Absolutely not.
It was an astounding chain of lies tied together by lunatic asides by a man who obviously is mentally unstable.
That is not sane behavior. The only defensible excuse, the only defensible explanation is if he is not mentally well.
A man who seemingly suffers from a clinical form of idiocy.
Let me put this question. Do you think the president's stable?
No.
John?
No. All right, so just when you thought they couldn't get any lower, this is the new standard on CNN, NBC, which apparently they have no standards anymore. But of course, the slanderous smears, they don't stop there. Now, they've also claimed President Trump is also unhinged. And again, they all echo each other. It's like they live in the same, well, fishbowl. Take a look.
President Trump's speech last night, which was widely greeted in the media as unhinged and full of lies.
An alarming warning from the former boss of U.S. intelligence after a wild and angry and sometimes unhinged campaign rally.
He's unhinged. It's embarrassing.
That was a president totally unhinged. There's little doubt about that for anyone watching.
I think that the president is unfit. I think the president is unhinged. But many of us have known that for 18 months.
What we're dealing with right now is a problematic president, an irrational president.
He is obviously desperate. I think he must know at some level, somewhere, that he is failing miserably.
All right, now it's time for me to diagnose them. I'll put up the same degrees that they have. Right there, there's my degree. They're suffering from being a bunch of overpaid, pampered, way out of touch people that have no clue what life is like for real Americans, and they're suffering from Trump derangement syndrome. See, I got my degree. Now, whatever happened to the media reporting truth and facts and being fair, balanced, objective? What we're seeing now is beyond media malpractice. They are doing a tremendous disservice to you, the American people, and the country by continually spreading lies and falsehoods about the president and advancing their agenda. Now, they're so blinded by this hatred of the president, it makes them completely, seemingly incapable now to hardly ever tell the truth. And don't forget, these so-called journalists, they're supposed to be informing you about the news of the day. They were the same people exposed by WikiLeaks for doing what? Colluding with Hillary Clinton's campaign. Now take a look at the examples right there on the side of your screen. The media has been exposed again and again and again as being massive purveyors of phony fake news. And that's why the president rightly continues to call them out almost on a daily basis. Now, it has created in this country a massive informational crisis, and right now, the left has zero credibility with most people. Just look at their approval ratings. The press is so fixated on going after this president and taking him down and his family down and the people close to him down. Well, they don't care any longer about getting it right, and they don't care about telling the truth. That's sad. One example we have recent is the New York Times. Earlier this month, they were reporting that Vice President was running a shadow campaign and planning on running against the president in 2020. The Vice President said it's absolutely false. That is one of literally hundreds of examples of fake news. And instead of reporting the facts, the liberal press, they're more focused on advancing their leftist, ideological, extreme political agenda. They create conspiracy theory after conspiracy theory. They smear the president every single chance they get now. And the media, well, they never reported the truth about the mess that President Obama left behind, and they're not reporting on what this president has accomplished, what his agenda is, what his solutions are, and how he's trying to fix things. They seemingly don't care about the people that should matter the most. Forgotten men, forgotten women in this country who made the big difference in this election that are suffering daily. Now, I honestly think we're the only show that talks regularly. 50 million Americans on food stamps, 13 million more under Obama, 50 million Americans in poverty, 8 million more after Obama, 95 million Americans out of the labor force. Now it's down to 94 million, but under Obama, the lowest labor participation rate since the 70s. Under Obama, the worst economic recovery since the 40s. The lowest home ownership rate under Obama in 51 years, and Obama doubled the national debt. And I can go on all night. Now, these are facts. The media never told you the entire election season about these things. And now that President Trump is in office, well, now the media is changing their tactics. They just refuse to report on this president's accomplishments because, what, it'll make them look good? You know, since members of the lazy press, they aren't interested in doing their jobs, well, I guess I'll do it for them. Here's everything. We'll go through the whole list tonight that the media will not tell you about the president's accomplishments. And by the way, this is not even a full list. And to emphasize all of these, we'll go back and we'll bring our ding sound back to get the tone-deaf media's attention. Let's go through them. He nominated, the Senate confirmed, the originalist he promised, Neil Gorsuch for the Supreme Court. The stock market is now at an all-time high. Consumer confidence is at a 16-year high. Under President Trump, more than 1 million jobs have been created for people who need them. Mortgage applications for those new homes now has gone up to a 7-year high. Unemployment rate right now, under President Trump, a 16-year low. The president signed the Promoting Women in Entrepreneurship Act. Success. He's gutted Obama-era regulations. The president has also ended the war on coal. He weakened these ridiculous Dodd-Frank regulations. The Trump administration is promoting buying and hiring American. We need the jobs. We're seeing investments for major businesses, Foxconn, Toyota, Ford, all these others promising to spend millions on plants and factories and manufacturing centers here in America. The president's policies have greatly reduced illegal immigration by over 70%. Bids for the border wall, that's underway. President's trying to secure congressional funding. That's a win. The administration's fighting back against sanctuary cities. The president created the Victims of Immigration Crime Engagement Office. He's changed the rules of engagement against ISIS. He drafted a plan to defeat ISIS. The president worked to reduce the cost of the F-35 fighter jet, saving you money. The White House imposed a 5-year lobbying ban. The president sanctioned Iran over its missile program. And as commander-in-chief, he responded to Syria's use of chemical weapons. The White House also introduced the tax reform plan. The administration is renegotiating NAFTA. The president withdrew from the Trans-Pacific Partnership, another campaign promise. He removed the United States out of the Paris Accords, another key promise. The president created a task force to reduce crime. The Justice Department is targeting brutal gangs like MS-13. The president signed an executive order to promote energy independence, which we need, and economic growth. He signed executive orders to protect police officers. He signed an executive order to target drug cartels. The president also signed an executive order for religious freedom. The Trump administration is working to send education back to the states, which is smart. The president's fixing, finally, the Department of Veterans Affairs. The Supreme Court upheld part of the president's temporary travel ban executive order. The president authorized the construction of the Keystone Pipeline, the Dakota Access Pipeline. He created a commission on election fraud. He's created a commission on opioid addiction. The White House is combating human trafficking. The president rolled back President Obama's ridiculous Cuba policy. Food stamp use is now in this country at a 7-year low after soaring under Barack Obama, with 13 million more Americans on food stamps. The president reduced the White House payroll. That saves you, the taxpayer, millions of dollars. The president's donating his salary. And finally, the president has signed 52 pieces of legislation. Have you heard any of this from the Destroy Trump media? Any of it? Have you ever heard them talk about solutions to the numerous problems we have, real national security concerns? Because what we told you is the truth about the president's accomplishments. They never talk about it. He's getting a lot of things done, frankly, despite very little help from both parties in Congress, and despite a media that utterly wants to destroy him every day. They wake up, how can we destroy him today? This hatred against the president is beyond out of control. It needs to stop. It probably won't. But I have a message for the Democrats. I have a message even for weak Republicans and all of these people in the mainstream media. I'm sure you all love your country, right? Do you want to make America great again? You in the media? Because if you want to make America great and you want to help the people you claim to have a monopoly of compassion on, solve the country's problems. You got that, Democrats, media? Offer solutions occasionally on your shows. And the Democratic Party, no is not the answer to anything. And maybe the media will stop bludgeoning the president politically with your daily lies. And maybe you can start thinking about working for the American people. I'm frankly disgusted with both parties. I'm disgusted with the sewer. I'm disgusted with the swamp that is known as Washington, D.C. Why? Because the American people, millions of them, the forgotten men and women in this country, and I started out with pretty much nothing in my adult life, they need help. And guess what? America's enemies are really, really dangerous. Just think for a moment. Just imagine for one moment. If we could just pull together as a country, just a couple of years, if the country would unite, there's no limits to just how great and prosperous and safe and secure this country will be. And joining us now, Fox News contributor, former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee. First, Governor, a little birdie told me it's your birthday. Congratulations. We're going to talk to your daughter in just a minute here. Let me just first get your general impression, reaction to the monologue, and where you think things are headed and what should be done.
Well, first of all, I thought your monologue tonight nails so many of the accomplishments of President Trump, and it's just not getting out there. Frankly, what you just did was to give the American people an extraordinary rundown of the success of this president. Now, I think your show is maybe the only place in all of media where that comprehensive a list is coming forth. But it ought to be posted in every federal building, and everybody in America ought to be made, every time they're subjected to some of these crazy networks like CNN and MSNBC, they ought to have to give equal time and read that monologue and just let people know there's a real story to be told out there.
And that's to his credit, because he's done a lot of this without the help and support of Congress. We'll get to that later in the night tonight. But I also have done one other thing that the rest of the media hasn't done. Going back to 91 and Matt Lauer in 99 or 2000 and all through the campaign, denouncing, renouncing, disavowing, talking about evil, of bigotry, hatred, white supremacy. Right thing to do, as many times as he's done it, they just go the opposite and ignore it all and run with a false narrative, and the president pushed back. Was that the right thing to do?
I think it's exactly what the president has to do, because they're giving him attention for pushing back, and two things result from that. Number one, he is reminding the 50-plus million Americans who voted for him that he is still on track and he knows why he was elected. But the second thing, it serves notice, he's not rolling over for these guys, and he shouldn't. I mean, the level of derangement that we now see in the media, where they have lost any sense whatsoever of journalistic integrity. They're no longer journalists. They're all commentators. And now, by the way, they're
not
all
even that.
practicing medicine without a license. Well, they're ideologues, but they're deranged ideologues.
Well, I agree. And maybe they ought to do a little self-introspection and analysis, because there's a few off the rails, and we know who they are, and we know the stories, but I won't name names at this point. You know, I was talking to somebody today, and it's a person that was a sort of a never-Trumper Republican. I said, you're never going to get it, are you? It's really simple. He's not going to conform into who you want him to be. He's not. Look at his agenda. Do you support the agenda? He's not going to be the person you want. He's not going to fit into the little box you want him to fit in. He's his own person. And I thought we kind of liked individualism and courage, but apparently not if you're Donald Trump.
You know, Donald Trump defeated 16 different people on the stage, including me, all of whom probably were a little more predictable, okay, than Donald Trump. He's a disruptive, unconventional candidate and a disruptive, unconventional president, and thank God he is, because we are living in an unconventional time in which I'm not sure that a conventional political figure could cut through the noise. And I know that it's driving the media crazy, but Sean, thank God for him.
Yeah, listen, I love the iconoclastic nature of it, and in many ways, like a rebel with a cause here. It's very funny because you have a graciousness about you. You ran, you fought hard. I thought you were always one of the best debaters on the stage, and you still are. And you just accepted it. What is it about Hillary this week, and we see it with some of the Republicans that ran against him, they never get over losing. The anger, it's like it changes them psychologically if they lose in a race. Al Gore.
Here's what's happened. But Sean, they can't do what even Angela Merkel has done this week, which I thought, to her credit, was remarkable. She said she doesn't agree with President Trump on a lot of policy issues, but he won the election, and he was elected through a democratic process of the voters having chosen him, and he deserves the respect of world leaders. And I want to say, thank you, Chancellor. And by the way, he deserves the respect of his own party and deserves the respect of the other members of Congress of the Democrats, and he deserves the respect of the media. But just remember this, Sean, and you nail it every night. But the fact is, when they try to say that Donald Trump's approval ratings are low, I hope that they also will report that their approval ratings, both the media and Congress, is lower than cockroaches and venereal disease. And so whatever they want to say about Donald Trump, he has 3 times the approval that either the media or Congress comes to work with every day.
Great perspective, Governor. And by the way, there's going to be another Huckabee on in a second. I hope you'll be watching. Thanks for being with us. When we come back,
you bet I will.
Well,
thanks.
I say it all the time. It's the hardest job in Washington, maybe even in the country. White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders will join us coming up. Also, later tonight, the original insurgent, Patrick J. Buchanan. Is this the final 3 months for the Republicans to either make it or break it? He'll answer that question.
The president is probably one of the strongest presidents we've had on economic issues. There's a reason that over 1 million jobs have been created since he took office. There's a reason that the unemployment is at a 16-year low. There's a reason that the stock market is at an all-time high. He's very committed to job creation, economic growth, and he's going to continue to do that.
All right, that was White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders. That was earlier today during a White House press briefing, listing just a few of the president's economic accomplishments. Now, she's got the hardest job in the country, and earlier tonight we had a chance to speak with her, of course, on her father's birthday at the White House. All right, Sarah Sanders, now, I just had your dad on. You wished him a happy birthday today. Good thing you did. He would have been pretty angry. You know, I went through this today, too, and I didn't even know you were going to address it. And so I'm writing out, preparing the show for today. And I just was like, nobody ever talks about his accomplishments, the things he does, what he's done on his own. And I'm like sending a message to Republicans, you guys got to get your act together. You got to create a sense of urgency to get things done. And as a conservative that, I can't appeal to the Democrats. They don't care what I think. I'm disappointed they haven't moved further. Where are you from your point of view? What's going to happen the next 3 months?
Look, I think we've got a very aggressive and big fall agenda set forward that we've really got to focus on, and we're going to need the Senate and the House to come together and actually get something done. I think they've had a free pass for the last, 8 years prior to the president coming into office, and they haven't been able to do things. And maybe that's been frustrating, and they haven't figured out how to move the ball forward, but now they've got a Republican president who's got a pen in hand that wants to be very aggressive, make bold reforms, particularly when it comes to taxes, infrastructure, health care, securing the border, national security by rebuilding the military. These are big things that this president is focused on. He's going to need Congress to get it together so that we can get some stuff accomplished.
I tried to go through in the last couple of nights and even over the last couple of weeks the idea that the media in this country is so rigidly ideological and they just don't want to give him a fair shake. It's either Russia, Russia, Russia. Well, interesting to read The Nation that it might not have been Russia after all, and we'll follow that story closely. Or it's he's about to nuke North Korea, or it's race, 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 never giving the history of Donald Trump. Never the things that he said. And I went last night, I played ding, 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 ding. No, they don't care about truth. And you have to deal with these people every day. Does that get particularly hard when you know they're not being honest? I could not do your job, Sarah. I couldn't. It would be war up there every day.
Well, and sometimes there is a little bit, tougher days than others. But thankfully, and I've said this before, I have toddlers, so I'm used to answering the same questions over and over and over again. And I'm used to saying no an awful lot. So I have good practice at home that's prepared me to come in and deal with a sometimes childish press corps that likes to focus on the same thing and ask the same questions over and over again. But thankfully, we have a president that isn't focused on the things that the press is, and he's focused on helping the American people. It's one of the things I talked about earlier today. We have an economy that's booming, and that's in large part to the confidence that this president has given the business community, but also he's gotten rid of so many regulations, over 800 regulations that have gotten government out of the way and allowed people to do what they do best, and that's create jobs, grow the economy, spend money. We are moving in the right direction, and that's at the leadership of this president.
Well, if Republicans don't get 7 brackets to 3, if they don't get the middle-class tax cuts, corporate tax cuts are so key to the economy, as is the trillions of repatriated money from multinationals at a low rate, and energy independence. To me, those are the things that are going to get the forgotten men and women that define this election back to work. Now, Mitch McConnell seemed to throw an olive branch at the White House. Are things cooling down a little bit, do you believe, between the Senate Majority Leader and the White House?
Look, the relationship there is fine, but what we've got to do is we've got to focus on our shared goals, which we have a lot. And we've got to get the Senate to where they're working hard to actually get things accomplished, not just talk about them. They've been talking about them for 7 years. They've campaigned on them, and now they've got to start legislating. Look, it's Congress's job to legislate. It's the president's job to lead. He's doing his part. Now Congress has got to step up and do theirs, and we're confident that everybody's ready to come together, focus on these shared goals, and really get some big things done for the American people.
All right. Now, I can say who I think is the most obnoxious, rude, ideological in that room. CNN, fake news. But from your perspective, that's not a question you're ever going to answer, are you?
No, I don't like to play favorites or non-favorites. Look, I'm here to promote the president's agenda, certainly not to promote anybody in the media. I think anytime I mention them, it only helps them get a little bit more publicity. So I'll leave that to you, and I'll focus on just pushing for the president today.
You're really good at your job. I could not do what you do. I hope people appreciate just how hostile it is in that room. We give you a lot of credit for standing up there every day. It's a tough job. Sarah?
Thank you. I appreciate it. I think it's a fun job, too.
If that's fun, I think I can think of a million other fun things. Thanks for being with us. When we come back, President Trump, he does call out Senator Mitch McConnell for failing to keep his promise on repeal and replace Obamacare. Seems to be a little thawing, but tonight, I have a message for the Senate Majority Leader, and we'll get reaction from the original insurgent, Patrick J. Buchanan, about the Republican Party and the potential future or demise. Straight ahead. Welcome back to Hannity. So the New York Times reported this week that Senator Mitch McConnell in private doubts it actually save his presidency. Now, of course, we've got to give some perspective here. They do cite anonymous sources, so we take that part with a grain of salt. And earlier today, the president did tweet out, quote, "The only problem I have with Mitch McConnell is that after hearing repeal and replace for 7 years, he failed. He should never have let that happen." Now, the president, he's absolutely right. And in case the senator or his constituents forgot Senator McConnell's promise, well, we will remind them with this montage. This is him and what he told you.
I'm going to focus on what we're trying to accomplish for the American people. Repealing and replacing Obamacare. My goal is to get to at least 50 votes to repeal and replace Obamacare, and those discussions are underway. There is a large majority in our conference that want to demonstrate to the American people that they intend to keep the commitment they made in 4 straight elections to repeal Obamacare. I think we all agree it's better to both repeal and replace.
So after 7+ years of promising you, the American people, that given the chance that they would repeal and replace Obamacare, Mitch McConnell's the leader. It didn't happen. They failed. And it's about time that Senator McConnell, he needs to, and all Republicans need to start keeping their word, especially since, look at the state of Kentucky. A new survey has the senator at a dismal 18% approval rating. Now, we promised you on the show, we will never stop holding Washington accountable. Here with reaction, the author of Nixon's White House Wars, Patrick J. Buchanan. Pat Buchanan, does the Republican Party survive if in the next 3 months and 2 weeks after Labor Day, they don't get done the economy, they don't get done energy, they don't get done something on health care, they don't get done the border wall? Do they survive?
I think the Republican Party survives, but their opportunity will be lost, Sean, the opportunity will clearly be lost. Look, there's a golden opportunity here to put together the populist, nationalist, economic conservatives on that side and with the regular conservative Republicans on the other side for a majority, but both sides have got to come together.
Here's my point, though. All right, yeah, the Republican Party will survive, but that's not my real question. My real question is, they got a big election. They should pick up 6, 7 Senate seats next year. Now, Jeff Flake, I'm not going to support Jeff Flake in Arizona, and I doubt you will either. And a lot of other people have had it with these people. And will they lose the House? Do they risk losing the House? Or is gerrymandering so fixed things that you'll only lose a few seats and only, instead of picking up 7 Senate seats, you'll pick up 2 or 3?
But yeah, look, I don't think anything is baked in the cake right now, and I think there's a real possibility the Republicans can hold the Senate and gain a couple of seats and retain the House. But what they got to realize is, look, we're all in this boat together. Mitch and the fellow over there that's Speaker of the House and the President of the United States, Donald Trump, we're all in there together, and if their end of the dinghy sinks, ours is not going to stay afloat.
All right, last question. And Karl Rove, his advice, he's never liked the president, but Karl Rove's a pretty smart guy. And he suggested the president can't win by going after members of his own party. And apparently it's way off limits to ever attack a fellow senator. But, when Mitch McConnell went out there and said these are excessive expectations, and I'm thinking that is such a swamp, sewer, D.C. culture comment that is so out of touch with how most Americans live their lives. So, I mean, does Donald Trump,
right.
is it
Look,
Donald Trump wrong to go after them, or should he just sit back and wait for them to do their job?
I think you're exactly right. I think Mitch McConnell's statement was, excessive expectations. He should have been cracked for that. But the point is, and he should, look, he's a grown man. He's a big politician. The president's got a right to hit him publicly if he thinks it will work. I do tend to agree with Carl on this, that look, I don't think it's going to work or it's going to help. And if it's not, I don't know why it's necessary to do it. It might be better to get angry and get inside a room, get it all out of your system, let them know what you think, and come out smiling.
I like that idea. All right, Pat, good to see you. Good advice. When we come back, Hillary Clinton, well, she called out President Trump and called him creepy. Really, after everything her husband Bill Clinton has been accused of and all the Sharia countries the Clinton Foundation took money from? We'll get reaction. RNC spokesman Kayleigh McEnany joins us. Mercedes Schlapp joins us straight ahead. Welcome back to Hannity. Now, Hillary Clinton got a lot of attention yesterday after excerpts of her audiobook were released where she called President Trump creepy. Really? Watch this.
No matter where I walked, he followed me closely, staring at me, making faces. It was incredibly uncomfortable. He was literally breathing down my neck. My skin crawled. What would you do? Do you stay calm, keep smiling, and carry on as if he weren't repeatedly invading your space? Or do you turn, look him in the eye, and say loudly and clearly, "Back up, you creep. Get away from me."
Back up, you creep. I have a question for Hillary. Did you ever feel creepy about all the accusations made against your husband? Do you feel creepy about Monica Lewinsky? You may remember this.
You described a scene where he was biting on your lip, and then when it was all over, he was leaving. Said, "You better put some ice on that."
Yeah, and casually put on his sunglasses and walked out the door.
It was a terrible ordeal for me, and no woman should be subjected to it. It was an assault.
He assaulted you?
Yes.
He touched, grabbed, fondled, and kissed you against your will?
Yes.
And it's an allegation that is not made by one woman, it's made by multiple
Many
women.
of us.
I said, well, I may need to be going or something. And next thing you know, he sat down, pulled down his pants, his whole everything, and he was exposed. And I said, I'm not that kind of girl, and I need to be getting back to my desk.
Well, that's creepy in my mind. Now, also, remember, the Clinton Foundation accepted millions and millions and millions of dollars from countries with deplorable human rights records towards women and others. And while the left is attacking President Trump and unwilling to listen, for years, Hillary Clinton has called for open debate. You may remember this.
I am sick and tired of people who say that if you debate and you disagree with this administration, somehow you're not patriotic, and we should stand up and say, we are Americans and we have a right to debate and disagree with any administration.
Joining us now with reaction, RNC spokesperson Kayleigh McEnany is with us. Fox News contributor Mercedes Schlapp. By the way, welcome to Real News, Kayleigh. We're so glad to have you. I watched you and Jeff Lord suffer, many a night, 10-on-1. It's pretty amazing. They call that balance. On a
Thanks,
serious
Sean. It's
note,
so good to join you.
It's good to have you, and Mercedes, always good to have you. I want to put up on the side of the screen, I just played really, really grotesque allegations by women, and then Monica Lewinsky exists in that list too, and she was a young woman and an intern. But I'm going to put up those countries, and one after another. I'll take Saudi Arabia as one. Women can't drive. Women are told how to dress. Women can't travel abroad, go to work without a male permission. Gays and lesbians are killed in Saudi Arabia for being who they are. And Christians and Jews are persecuted. And look at all of the money that she took from these countries that abuse these groups. Kayleigh, what's your reaction?
Look, Sean, the hypocrisy is breathtaking. In this debate where apparently Donald Trump stood too close to her, I'm sure you remember that 90 minutes before that debate began, President Trump brought out Kathleen Willey and Juanita Broderick and Paula Jones, these Clinton accusers. He gave them a voice. He gave these women who have been hurt, who have been marred, who have been ignored by most of the media outside of you, Sean, he gave them a platform. So for her to ignore the pain of these women, their sexual assault allegations, and instead complain about Donald Trump standing too close to her, it's really breathtaking hypocrisy.
You know, I spent a lot of time, Mercedes, and I was looking, and again, we're keeping up on the screen, countries that gave the Clinton Foundation money, and I looked and I looked and I looked hard. I never saw the outspoken criticism at all, and I'm looking at the tens of millions of dollars that went to the foundation, and did they buy her silence? In terms of she wouldn't speak out against their atrocious human rights records?
Yeah, I mean, I think for Hillary Clinton, the fact is that they've developed a sort of double standard where they basically have said, you know, she's the feminist, she's the one that's out there for women's issues, but at the same time then has been involved in receiving, as you mentioned, $10 to about $25 million from Saudi Arabia alone for the Clinton Foundation. So I think for, you know, watching Hillary or listening to Hillary in this excerpt of her book, you know, I just don't get it, Sean. I mean, her time is up. Even the Democrats in her own party want her to be out of the spotlight. It's why does she continue to rehash this? It's like her own way of therapy, I guess, to try to deal with this election loss.
I mean, but and Kaylee, you can hear her heart's not. It's like, let me read to you. I am Hillary Clinton. I mean, is she just? I just look at the Clintons and I look at the foundation and I'm like, is she just doing it for the money? They don't need the money, do they?
No, they don't. And I can't imagine, look, Democrats are very happy about this. She's dragging us back into the past. She cannot accept the fact that Donald Trump trounced her in this election. That's why she's blamed Jim Comey. That's why she's blamed misogyny, any number of things. You know, and that's the Democratic playbook. Distract, distort, demonize. Demonize a great man. Distract from all of his successes, a booming economy. And that's what she's doing with this book. And you're right, the life is sucked out of her. She lost an election. She can't accept it.
All right, I got to roll. And Kaylee, welcome to Real News. We appreciate you being with us as well. And always good to see you,
Thanks so much. Good to join you, Sean.
Thank you.
When we come back, President Trump says he is committed to building the border wall. Is Congress going to get it done and keep their promise? Sheriff Clark, straight ahead.
We are building a wall on the southern border, which is absolutely necessary. Build that wall. Now, the obstructionist Democrats would like us not to do it, but believe me, if we have to close down our government, we're building that wall. It is desperately needed. We're going to have our wall. We're going to get our wall.
All right, that was the president earlier this week at his rally in Phoenix talking about the importance of keeping a promise, building the wall. Here with reaction, Milwaukee County Sheriff David Clark. You know, Sheriff, I look at Republicans again and I'm just mystified. Obviously, it helped propel him into the White House. Obviously, it's good for national security. And Republicans are like, well, maybe we'll fund part of the wall, but you got to give in on some part of Dreamer amnesty, DACA, whatever. Why can't they just keep a simple, fundamental promise and keep the nation secure?
It's the behavior that goes on in the swamp, in the Beltway in Washington, D.C. You're well aware of that, Sean. Look, President Trump has made it abundantly clear he is going to seal the southern border. As you indicated, there are national security issues, there are domestic security issues, there are economic issues when illegal aliens come into the country. It depresses wages and takes jobs from Americans. And there are also public health issues. Look, the Congress has been the hurdle here. And it isn't just the Democrats, but it's been the Senate. You know, the House has passed something. But this game has been going on since 1980. President Trump is a builder, and he knows how to finish a project. This wall will get built.
Here's a big question. You know, we have the big debt ceiling issue coming up the Republicans are going to have to deal with, which is another national disgrace that Washington has given us. Okay, but the government's going to be funded. It's just a fact. But the president said, you know what? I made this promise. You guys do your job, but maybe we'll just shut. By the way, essential services are never shut down. Maybe we'll just have to shut it down for a period. Thoughts?
Well, first of all, President Trump knows that this is chess and not checkers. Look, the left always uses the we'll shut down the government. They did it last time around because they know that the GOP and Congress get scared because they say, well, we'll get blamed. The president has to figure out something that can be used as a catalyst to get this Senate and get this Congress to get the funding necessary and to actually allow him to get it started. So this is, is going to be a game of chicken, but I'll tell you what, my money's on President Trump.
Yeah, it's so sad. Republicans, if they're out of power, they fear they'll get blamed for a shutdown. If they're in power, they fear they'll get blamed for a shutdown. Sheriff, I hope they listen to you. It's very important, and that is part of what will make or break the Republican Party moving forward and in the 2018 elections. Thank you, sir. When we come back, more Hannity right after this break. All right, welcome back to Hannity. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have left this evening. As always, thank you for being with us. We hope you'll set your DVR so you never miss an episode. Our promise to you is we will never be like those other networks. In other words, unbound.